had about a 30-minute demo just using this new headset. I had about 1 trillion questions, so I tried to ask as many of them as I possibly could of Apple to get all the answers I could for you and for myself.
Just wanted to say you
without any
look
further
like
ado,
a
let's
way
just
older version of that one guy who was Overwatch World Championships MVP.
jump right in. This is everything you need to know so far about Apple's new AR VR headset. So the first question, naturally, what is it? So first things first, this is a first generation device from Apple, which we don't see very often, but it is an augmented reality / virtual reality headset with a bunch of cameras and sensors inside that you strap to your face. It'll start at $3,500 and it'll go on sale starting sometime early next year.
Where's the next question?
Nobody's been able to. But then let's get to the burning question you've probably already been thinking. What does it actually do?
We don't know this though.
I'm separating this into 3 bulk categories.
I want to see the end. Is it any good? So we know what it does.
Computing, content, and connections.
Yes, we watch the whole thing.
I should preface this all. Is it any good? Is this headset any good? And the answer is...
Guys, I understand you weren't there yesterday. We watched it yesterday. Okay, so you weren't there. I'm sorry. I skipped the things that the presentation meant. He summarized it. We watched it.
Well, yeah, some of the parts of this headset that I tried are actually the best I have ever seen in any VR headset by a mile, specifically the eye tracking and the hand tracking. Now, of course, it's going to be up to developers to really make it good, but I think the foundational, like, how do you use it part is pretty amazing. But that doesn't mean there aren't any downsides. All right, number one, there was no
question.
Haptics, of course.
Chat, is this guy a Apple glazer? Like, does he have to glaze a certain amount to make sure that he still gets like priority on their products and shit like that and whatnot?
First, because you don't have controllers, you're just doing everything with your hands in the air. There's no way to have any sort of haptic feedback. There was a demo that I did where like I stuck my hand out, a wall on the other side of the room opened up and a dinosaur was back there and a butterfly flew out. I held out my hand and the butterfly flew up and landed on my finger. It could track and see all of that information, and the volumetric, all the computation to make that happen was amazing. But when the butterfly landed and I didn't feel anything, there was that moment of like, oh right, this is a VR headset. But then number 2, this was interesting.
Yeah.
This is pretty heavy. This is a pretty heavy VR headset. Kind of the same way that AirPods Max, the Apple's metal headphones, are heavier than most plastic headphones. There's a reason why most other VR headsets are just plastic. It's not because that's cheap. It's because it's lightweight. It's fatiguing to have a heavy thing on your head. And this is a headset made of metal and glass. It's heavy. Now it is...
I told you guys this. Yo, when I said this yesterday, you guys made fun of me, dude. Yo, don't say shut up, bitch ass. When I said I hope they did all the study and the feedback and they listen to the people that do VR to know what is all the specifics of having a wearable, and y'all said, dude, this is $1 billion company, dude. Y'all motherfuckers were actually wrong.
No arguing that.
I was right.
I do wonder about using it for longer than the half hour that I did. I wonder if it would be more fatiguing to my head. That's also actually why the battery isn't attached to it. That would be a ton of weight to carry on your head, so they connected the battery instead through a proprietary cable, and that actually can sit next to you on the couch or in your back pocket. And that brings us to the other thing, the battery life. 2 hours. 2-hour battery life on the headset.
Sorry.
Which is not that great. It's not that long. Now there's a USB-C port on the battery bank, and you can plug that into the wall for infinite time. But the second you unplug from the wall, 2 hours from that pretty hefty battery bank, which is like, okay, maybe most people won't be spending a lot of time in the headset. But you did also just show us, Apple, an ad of people like watching a movie in the headset. That's already, like, most movies are 2 hours plus. So something worth thinking about. Just a 2-hour, I'm sure people will make bigger external batteries for this thing, but 2 hours. And then also, I couldn't get a firm answer here on if there are fans inside or not, but I think there's fans. Like, there's certainly vents for fans anyway. And if you're gaming for long enough or using it for long enough, do those spin up? Do they ever get loud? Do they ever kill your battery? That's kind of unclear. But then, of course, the main thing that everybody's talking about, it's expensive. It's $3,500. So is that pricey? Yeah. That's very expensive.
And you know what? They could have probably replaced the fucking metal shit with plastic and have a small battery somewhere on the headset and have the same amount of weight, or even lighter, so they could have a certain amount of time of battery without wearing the fucking wire. Yep.
This is the thing that
yep.
is always
I
weird
said
about
it,
the products.
and
like,
you
there
know
is
you know I'm
no
right about it.
direct comp. Like you always say it's expensive, but
If a
like
group of
compared
big
to what?
streamers start
And
dual
they did
streaming
this
on
with
Kick and
the Pro
Twitch
Display
for protesting the
XDR.
new
They've done this
toes,
with
would you
even
join?
AirPods Max a
You
little
banned.
bit. But like
What?
there are several things that this headset does that no other headset does. The eye tracking, the hand tracking, that's super good. Even if an equivalent headset came along today and did all of the same stuff that this does, hardware and software wise, it still wouldn't have FaceTime. It still wouldn't have like looking at a Mac and then the ecosystem allowing the Mac's display to pop up. So this is kind of something that only Apple could pull off. So bottom line, I got to try it.
love
I
UX.
thought it was extremely impressive, but at the end of the day, this is
I like the wording here that he uses. He says that only Apple can pull off. I mean,
not a product for the masses. I mean, obviously, right? It's
yeah, because they
$3,500,
own
has
it.
the word
Because they
Pro
own
in
it.
the name too. But this feels like the Series Zero, like the Apple Watch. Remember when the Apple Watch first came out, the Series Zero?
Well, it's incorrect. Everybody can pull it off. Everybody can pull it off. It's just that since they own the fucking OS, and
Where it's
They're the
really
one that
gonna
can
be
do
up
it.
to the first gen,
That's just
the
glazing
early
it.
adopters and the developers to decide the direction that this thing goes, to decide what people actually want to use it for, and that'll shape the future versions of it that we may eventually get down the road. Then maybe someday there's like a Vision.
This chat,
SE
you guys are
that's
just
like
I can't, bro.
$400
Actual
that the
glazers,
masses
bro.
will all adopt, and it'll be this next generation hit product, maybe. But as of right now, this is very much in the sort of early adopter, people like me, people like watching this video, testing phase to figure it out. So that's the Apple Vision Pro. It's the rich person's toy and the developer's muse for right now, but we'll see how far this thing goes in the near future. It's coming out next year. It's not that far off. It's not that far away.
He's
It's
literally
really
correct.
interesting.
Chat, I'm gonna get a dev to give me a game before anybody else. I'm gonna play it and I'm gonna say, guys, I'm the best to ever play this game. You should listen to my opinion because I'm the best of all time. Because I'm the only player. No shit, they're the only one who can pull it off. They're the only one who
Either way,
can pull it off.
This was also part of a huge, entire WWDC keynote. So if you want to watch my recap of the rest of that stuff, ideally get subscribed because there's going to be a video recap of the biggest announcements, of which there are many other things. And also, I'll shout out the Waveform podcast to get subscribed there too. Because
Chad, is anything good in the other questions or not? Because I agree with him, but I agree and I did also disagree. I think
Fam, he's saying they're the only one that can do it legally, and he's right. He's not saying that it's moral or anything.
no, the only one who can pull it off. The wording sucks. It's glazing language.
Wow.
actually do. So okay, I'm separating this into three bulk categories that I made up, and I'm kind of
More
proud
than
of
2
here, which
years
are
wasted
computing,
XQCL.
content, and connections. Now, actually, I should preface this all by saying this is a first-gen product, so right now the only apps that show up on the home screen are Apple's apps. Just like when the first iPhone came out with no app store, it's just Apple's apps. But the reason this is coming out, or at least getting announced so early, but it's not coming out till next year, is to give this window for developers to start developing their own apps and making cool things for this headset to do that are way more interesting and way more functional, but it does have a core set of functions. So for computing, I think this is the one that's probably the least likely to be.
Nobody will. No,
Hello, Mr. Pepega.
no,
one
literally,
else can do
literally,
FaceTime.
there's no market for
They
it.
are
There's
the
no
only
upsides for
ones who
doing
can
it.
pull off our Facebook.
Nobody will do shit for it. So that's it. You know I'm right. You
used by
know
most
I'm right. You know I'm
but
true.
It is a pretty
Nobody will
direct
do
shot
shit.
at what Meta just did with the Quest Pro, the $1,500 Quest Pro. So you can use this thing as its own computer with web browsing, etc., with these 4K windows in front of you that you can move around and do all kinds of stuff with your hands.
Here's a competitive market that I give you. Okay. Devs have all the incentives to do all the that they can to make VR games the most insane possible. And who does it? Nobody. Wanna know why? There's no market for it. There's no motivation to do something that is only for this platform, that is not for another platform, or they can reach more people. The market isn't there. There's no upside. They don't do it. Nobody will do shit for this. Holy fuck! You guys are
Now,
so
this will
stupid.
be its own OS. Again, it's not running off your phone or anything. It's running a whole new operating system called Vision OS, and it seems pretty similar to iPad OS, just in the fact that you're just touching things in iPad OS, and in this headset you look at something and then you touch your fingers together, and that's basically just like a normal touch. But I was really impressed with the responsiveness. Again, this was better than any headset I've seen with just your hands. If I wanted to scroll through something like a Safari window, I literally in air would touch my fingers together and drag the window, and it would scroll nearly in real time. I would like throw it around, like toss it, catch it, toss it the other way, and start scrolling through things with my finger, resizing windows, dragging the corners of things. And I was super impressed with that too. Now, if you're like me, you might have also had some questions about the sharpness. Like, do I really want to wear something like this for a long time to work like it's on a computer? And I think that was also pretty smartly addressed. They use a selective rendering based on the super good eye tracking. So the computing power is basically focusing on sharply rendering the part of the screen that you're actually looking at while saving power on the rest. It's pretty cool, and it works so quickly that I did not notice it while using it. And then the part you're looking at is actually very sharp. Like I said before, there's super high
types at
resolution
1 letter
screens
per
in
hour.
4K. I don't know if I have a number for refresh rate, but it felt like 120 hertz. And eye fatigue will eventually become a thing with any headset you strap to your face, but this would be on the lower level of eye fatigue compared to what I've experienced with some others. And then for even more heavy work, this is kind of nuts, but they showed it in the keynote. Apparently, if you have a Mac and you want to do Mac OS stuff, you can just, with the headset on, look at...
People making fun of 120 are stupid. 120 is needed, and it's the baseline, I think, for VR, AR. Anything under 120 is dodge, but 120 is like it's like the sweet spot. 60, it gives you motion blur. It gives you motion sickness. 120 is really good.
At your Mac, and it will pick up
90 is
what
okay,
you're doing, and it'll mirror the Mac's display as one of the 4K windows for you in the headset. And then you can even connect a Bluetooth keyboard and a Bluetooth trackpad and start working around like it's an actual Mac, just with a bigger screen wherever you want. Yeah, ecosystem stuff. So that's computing. I definitely got to try it. But then, of course, there's the connection stuff. You got messaging. You can type out messages to people just like as if you were on a Mac. But there's also, impressively, FaceTime. Now, I don't even know that this is necessarily better than a normal FaceTime holding your phone or like on a laptop, other than the fact that I guess you don't have to be holding anything. But you can have people's windows floating in front of you as you talk to them on FaceTime.
That's Black Mirror shit.
You might also be asking, wait a second, if I'm not holding my phone in front of me, what do other people on FaceTime see? Well, the answer is they'll see a 3D rendered model of you that was scanned into the system from your iPhone that syncs up and matches the movements of your face with eye tracking and all the other sensors of the headset. So I got to try it.
Look at this shit.
It works. Okay, so it's not as good as obviously looking at a person. I just feel like a FaceTime, you're trying to have like a personal connection with the person.
Of course.
And this is obviously more personal than an avatar or like a cartoon of you, but it feels kind of somewhere in between. It's kind of like a Project Starline, which
last pause. I might disagree with this. I think being in Uncanny Valley is worse than having an actual avatar that has your features on it. I think even if you had like let's say an anime-based avatar with all your features, that feels more real than having a fake version of you try to mimic a one-to-one. That's just my take on it. That's it.
I just did that video about a couple weeks ago. If you haven't already seen that, I'll leave a link with a like button so you can check it out. But it feels sort of in that like Uncanny Valley, moving 3D model territory instead of looking at an actual person. It's kind of how I picture it. But then last but not least, of course, content. People are just going to watch content on this thing. And I think this is the industry, now that Apple's jumping into it, that is poised to explode. Like, we've had VR games and VR videos for a long time, and Apple is now also able to do this. They, of course, put their own spin on it, and they can use the power and the draw of the Apple brand to get content creators and big motion picture studios and sports leagues and all kinds of creatives to work to make content that looks really good, specifically on Apple's headset and in Apple's formats. I can personally say from my demo, hell yes, I would pay to watch an NBA game courtside in the VR headset. The quality is good enough, and obviously it's not going to be as immersive as feeling the energy from the crowd, but you're not paying courtside prices. You'd probably pay, this is a total guess, $10-20 to watch an NBA game courtside or have some subscription to do that. I would totally do that, and it would be fun. But even with regular 2D content like movies, just watching a regular movie, you can totally just sit back, put the headset on, maybe even put some headphones on, and just like on a plane seat, just watch a movie as if you're
but how would you watch it though?
Which is pretty sweet. There is that digital crown on the side that actually lets you spin it clockwise to move in more immersion and fully envelop you in the VR environment, or you can turn it counterclockwise to bring in more of your real world
They
environment
would have
pass through.
Yeah, they would have to have multiple 360 cameras placed at different places to emulate the game or make it as lifelike as possible and
peripheral vision. Kind of a neat
transform
trick. And then
it
there's also this
in
kind of weird feature where you can
consumable
take
content.
3D photos and videos with the cameras built into the headset itself. And I did not like this one. So there was a demo of like a recording from a headset camera of a kid blowing out some candles on a birthday cake, basically. And I got to watch this actual scene in the actual Apple headset. So because there's two cameras like front facing, they can record stereoscopic 3D. So you can turn on the recording and in that moment sit down and record a super immersive video. And then when you watch it back in the headset, it's like you're reliving this moment in 3D, which can feel kind of cool, but I can't get the image of like the dad at the birthday party with the headset on just recording things. Like,
what if you could do this, chat? What if you could go, yo, I like this object, and you have it, and you go, you look at it like that, right? And then you can make the render and send it. Boom, I like this, boom, and send it to somebody. And then they modify it, send it back to you, and it just doesn't. You can have it.
It's what kind of memory is that for the other
people?
It's
kind of hardcore.
You know, like
I
saw this and I
cool.
thought back to the reasons we all know why Google Glass failed, which is it was ahead of its time, but it's also like you're walking around with a camera on your face, and everybody knows that you have a camera on your face. It just wasn't cool. Dad, what are you doing? Why are your eyes sticking out through the headset? So, all right, the number one question I've gotten after I've actually...
Okay, that was good, actually. That's pretty good. The 522? What?
So Optic ID, this thing knows your eyes really well. So
We
you
see
probably see
already.
all these weird
We know what it does
frames
already.
where you can see people's eyes
I was trying
through
a
it.
game complain I was just trying to roast the game. Sorry XQCL.
Like this super weird thing that I've never seen in any other headset. So what is happening here? Well, spoiler alert, it's not actually transparent. It kind of looks like it's a glass transparent thing, but it's not. It appears to be because there's actually an OLED screen facing out. This is what I would call a
330.
two-way pass.
I'm done for this.
See, a normal on the UI, it would immediately highlight and select exactly what you're looking at, no matter how small the target was or what you're looking at. And then when you want to select something, all you do is take your fingers like this and just touch them together. That's how you click. So you look at something, click. Look at something, click. So there's a calibration process when you first set up the headset. You put it on for the first time.
That's gonna hardcore.
So you just look around with your eyes at a bunch of different dots, so it learns your eyes. And then from that point on, you're just cruising. You're sailing through everything by just looking at things, and it feels like telepathic. You just look at something and select it, and that's it. So this is how the whole UI works. Pretty much every other headset has the ability to use your hands to select things, but most of them rely on the sensors on the outside to keep track of a set of controllers for maximum accuracy. But this massive array of sensors on the outside of Apple's headset have done an impressively good job of picking up what my hand is doing, kind of no matter where it is. So like I said, there's sensors all the way around the thing. They're facing forward, but they're facing side.
That's pretty good. I enjoyed that. All right.
Yo, this is X on the beat, yo. Okay.
My voice as well.
That ass. Anyone knows that boy? I don't know, he's just so soy. Anyone knows that boy? I don't know, he's just so soy.